Hello to my True Blue crew. Happy Wednesday. This is our sew and chat for WIP Wednesday when we can work on all of our quilty UFOs and just make some progress and get things done. You can see I've got my temperature quilt that I am making half rectangle triangles to document the temperatures in Phoenix, Arizona for 2025. And I want to shout out to Barry. Yes, first one through the gate, fast fingers saying hello. So good to see you. And if you are intrigued by these half rectangle triangles, I want to invite you to a virtual workshop, a class that I'm having online in April. You can head over to truebluequilts.com to register for that class where I teach you all about half rectangle triangles and we make a sampler quilt together. So check that out. I'd love to have you. And you can see we've had some pretty consistent temperatures. This was the end of February. I need to add a few more blocks here. We continued with the 80 degrees for a little bit at the end of February, the beginning of March. So I've got my yellow triangles and I'm mixing in a different print because our low temperatures were very consistent too. And I didn't want to have this same purple show up all the time. So I'm mixing in another fabric. And this is all stash. This is a complete stash buster project for me. So I've got my spreadsheet handy where I made note of all the temperatures and I can hopefully keep myself coordinated to check off when I've made the triangles and when I've attached them to the February row. And my one trick for half rectangle triangles, let's see, get it down here where you can see, is to look for those mountain peaks when you line up your triangles. Hello, Lori. Hey, Tasha. The gang's all here. Good to see you guys and gals. I wanted to get right to sewing. And Tori is here. She's my buddy, my co-host for the Quilting on the Side podcast. So if you ever want to see what things look like behind the scenes, business-minded quilt and craft ideas, then come on over to that podcast. And Joyce is in the house. Very nice. Tori, I am working on my temperature quilt. This is the February row that I need to add a couple more blocks to, and then I can start March. What is everyone else working on tonight? And it's perfectly fine to say that you are multitasking, that you've got another screen going with the basketball tournament, because that will be my weekend, is watching the NCAA tournament. Favorite time of year. So I won't be quite as chatty tonight because I have to think about what I'm doing a little more than with some of the other things, all this, housekeeping to make sure that I've got the right number of the right colors as I go here. So I'm using the same color combination, I've made 4 blocks, 2, 3, 4 as I'm marking off, and then I can change to my green, which is the 70 degrees. So I just did 10-degree increments on my color scheme, and I chose another batik there for that, and a little bit darker print. This one does have a right side and a wrong side, so you have to make sure you get your prints all lined up, right side up when you cut. And nope, I'm not showing under the camera there. You can see I'm doing this scrappy, but all those greens kind of blend in the same family. So that will be nice there. So I'm going to sew all of my triangle pairs. And it's been fun because there have been just a few days of rain sprinkled in that I use this other polka dot fabric for. And so that divides up my blocks just enough that I can keep things organized here. But then I need to pull out my, what did I use for? Oh, I'm losing a baggie. I had put all my colors together in baggies to stay organized. Did I get it buried in the... Well, I have plenty more fabric. Didn't I swear I had a... Hang on. I dropped some stuff this afternoon. I was looking to see if it got dropped there. Maybe I used it all up and did need to cut some more, but then I'd have the baggie hanging around somewhere. Okay, well, we will not worry too much about where that stuff got to. Like I said, I have plenty of fabric picked out to do different colors. I was using these two, so it just gets a little crowded in my sewing space to do cutting while I'm on camera. But we can adapt and overcome. And the good thing about half rectangle triangles is you want things oversized to start out. So I don't have to be super accurate with my cutting for this first step. And triangles have a distinct direction, uphill or downhill. So I made it easy on myself, and I am doing all of my temperature quilt HRTs, half rectangle triangles. I am doing those all downhill. So I line my rectangle up the tall way, and then going from left to right, I want my ruler to go downhill. And I realize the camera is going to show it to you backwards. And I kind of zoomed off to the side, but that's, again, not going to be too much of an issue. So now I have my 40-degree color ready to go for the few days that I have left that were in the 40s for a overnight low. And then my 70s were this darker green. So that's the combination I'm working with. So like I said, I'm getting my colors all paired up first, and then I will trim these triangle units down, and then I will add them to the monthly row. Okay, and then we went back, immediately jumped back to a 70-50. So all that hassle for like one little block. Oh, Barry, you are diving in. He bought a Cutie Breeze frame. And for those of you that don't know, the Cutie frame is like a carriage for your sewing machine that turns it into a long arm. So congratulations, Barry. You can put that together tomorrow over the weekend and really have fun doing some free motion quilting. And go back on my channel. I have a whole series of 30 days of free motion quilting. I did that 2 or 3 different times, so you can find out lots of fun designs that you can sketch and then stitch. Because I do have a long arm also, and I love free motion quilting. Let's see. Okay, so I'm looking at my chart, and then we bring in this. Oh, I already did. Oh, no, it was, I was going to say I brought in my 60-degree temperature, but this block had 60 as the high. And we managed to have one day where it was 60 degrees for our low. So I have my 2 greens together for a 60-degree low and a 70-degree high. And I'm just trusting that the Weather Service reported things accurately. It would be way too much to keep track of all that myself. Okay, so now I want to use one of my little leader enders so that I can get all these HRTs taken care of. I thought I was, yeah, I guess I was alternating colors a little bit there with the purples, but you get a stack of all the same fabric and you just keep sewing it together, right? Okay, so let's see how fast my aliso heats up. And the thing about HRTs is I always press them open because we have such a sharp angle there. That I don't want the bulk of pressing to one side. I feel like I'm finally catching up to all the cool kids with my toys here, my little travel iron and the wool pressing mat. And so the next thing I need is one of the clappers, the wooden tailor's clapper, because people say that does make a difference in keeping your blocks nice and flat. I'm still here. Hey, Tori, do you know, if you're still here, what Amanda's channel name is? A friend of ours is going live for the first time today, right after me, I think. Hopefully she put the time zone down correctly. And I thought it was at 5. Amanda Chef. And if you could grab that link, Tori, and share it in the chat, I'd love to send some people her way. And my friend Amber, the cheeky quilter, she usually does a Wednesday live, but I don't know if she is ready this week or if she has other stuff going on. Okay, so now I grab my little bit different ruler because I like to make all of my HRTs at this 2x3 size, and my ruler is marked exactly for that half rectangle triangle. And that's one of the things I will talk about at my class in April, is why one half rectangle triangle ruler doesn't work for all the sizes you want to make. And we'll play with some different designs, different things you can do with HRTs. But that class is coming up in 2 sessions on Tuesday nights at the end of April. And I do have a mini lesson about half rectangle triangles in the Fall in Love with Quilting Club. And that is a it's kind of like well, just what it sounds like. It's a club. It's a membership community where we have different quilt designers and teachers come in every month and teach us different techniques. So my lesson was in February, but it's available for the whole year. So whenever you join, you get access to all the videos. And that is linked in the description box below. So feel free to check that out. with a full-time job and long-arm customer work, I do not get a chance to just sit and sew for myself very often. So that's why I appreciate these Wednesdays so much. Just having that dedicated hour every week means I really am starting to make progress. I've finished up a quilt over the weekend. Did I take an hour? I'm trying to think when I got that done. I immediately put the top in the pile to be quilted. And I'm debating. I have one more long arm customer quilt just ready to load up. I finally got all the problems worked out that I was having in January and February. And I'm debating whether I put a customer quilt on next or if I quick do one of my own projects. And I'm leaning towards doing my own project, but we'll see. That involves doing some frankenbatting, which is the fun term that we use when we don't have a big enough piece of batting for the quilt and we stitch to, you can stitch or you can use single-sided fusible interfacing to join your leftover pieces of batting to make something big enough. Barry wants to send me his quilts. I have a very long turnaround time. Like I said, it takes me forever to get things back, and I hesitate to tell people to send quilts in the mail. I've heard there's a few horror stories of mail trucks catching on fire and destroying quilts, and I would hate that to happen to somebody who sent their stuff to me. Yeah, it's out of my control, but oh my gosh, after the work both you and I put into these things, I would much rather just quilt for people in my local area that I can meet in person. And yes, we could all get in an accident and have the stuff in our car burn up, but I don't know. Just one of those things that I hear the horror stories and I don't want it to happen. So, yes, I'm looking forward to seeing Barry's adventures with the cutie. Okay, so now I'm going back to my spreadsheet so that I can get my blocks in order and added to my February row. I decided to do my months in one long horizontal row instead of, like a square or however, 7 days of the week lined up. I always think of the Little Mermaid. This is this and that is that. And if you didn't watch Little Mermaid as much as I have in my life, then I guess you've just missed out on the dingle hoppers and everything. And I made all that big deal about cutting a different purple, and they keep ending up next to each other. I need more variety in my triangles. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. I had organized things a little better from the start and have things cut out to be scrappy. That's the thing about scrappy projects is you have to do a lot of cutting up front. You can't just cut as you go. This one. This is what I mean by wild March weather. 4 different colors there to be the high and low for 2 consecutive days. It always reminds me of that old rhyme, in March goes in like a lion, out like a lamb. So here is February's progression. Green is, it goes green, yellow is hotter than green. And then there were my couple days of rain in February. And here we ended with another warm week. And that was February. I just got one little. Should have had 6. Okay, so where did my... The 40s were blue. I'm talking to myself as I interpret my numbers here with the colors I have. So this was the 1st of March, the 2nd of March, the 3rd of March, and then the 4th of March. That's right. Oh, and then I need another, need a 70-50. So I need a green and a purple. Green and purple. Blue. I'll probably get done here and then move stuff and find all the pieces I thought I was missing on the floor somewhere. Let me go back to the 8. And whenever I pull things for scrappy projects, I end up with all these polka dots. Almost every fabric I have in my stash has some form of dots on it. Okay. Nope, I'm still missing something. Okay, so it's this green purple one that I need to press and trim and yeah, Barry, temperature quilts have been a thing for a while in the quilt world. And I mean, you could go back and do a significant year in your family and just grab all the historical data. And some people even use special fabrics for like their birthdays, if throughout the year for the whole family, that kind of thing. But yeah, I'm just keeping track and trying to keep up with it as I go. You know, every couple weeks I'll sit and do the write down all the temperatures and figure out the colors that I need from my predetermined choices. And thank you, Joy, or Lori was commenting on my rose being pretty. Well, I'm hoping it was all pretty fabric when it started, so it'll just be, you know, it's one of those things that not like we have any weathermen in the family or there's any particular reason why I'm wanting to do this now. I need something to keep me busy. And this seemed like a good little fun thing to do online and share with you all. Okay. This has got to be the most popular or the most repeated combination in this first part of the year has been this 70-degree high and 50-degree low temperature, which I shouldn't be surprised. You wouldn't be surprised. That is winter in the desert. And yes, I do put a sweater on when it's 60 degrees out. Okay, here is the first week of March. And like I said, all the triangles are different. I mean, we've got this chunk of dark greens, but we had this one low temperature. We had a high 80, 70, 60, and then we settled into the 70s there. But our mornings were getting warmer, 40s, 50s, and 60s. And then this one day of rain. Now, when I say rain, it's not pouring down rain and giving us inches and inches of rain. We get like half an inch, and it's a good thing. Okay, so I am going to see, I told you I would find it on the floor, the last place you look. I'm going to set aside my temperature blocks because that's enough brain power for the night. And just work on something quick and easy, which are these. Reorganize my workspace here. I am making some patriotic blocks. I'm going to make things that have chains of blue going one direction, and then the reds will join together along the other direction. So that is what I am doing with these. Let me give this guy a quick press. He hasn't been ironed yet. I need a better place for this iron that I can reach. Maybe on that corner would be better. That I can reach without I worry about my fabric leaning up against that. And I don't usually pin things, but 9 patches I do anytime I have seams meeting. So that's what I'm doing here, is just pinning my rows before I sew them together. And I heard a ding on my phone, and my family is traveling today, so I always like to check my messages when I know my family's on the road. I can't believe how much parenting has changed in my lifetime. You know, as a teenager, I would just be out with friends, you know, come home at the specified curfew. But I have Life 360 as an app on my phone, and so I can literally track my daughter's every movement. Sometimes knowledge is a curse. Because the app will even tell you how fast she's going. So when she was learning to drive and I would notice that speed, oh, heart attack. Why are you going 60 and a 40? We have some nice flat stretches of road here, so it's very easy for people to speed, which is fine when you're the one in control of the car doing what you think is a safe speed, but it's not so fun when you're the parent sitting at home saying, my daughter's going how fast? I'm debating using this bright red because I've got this darker shade for most of things. So I'm wondering if that's going to stand out too much as a light block, this bottom one. So let me know what you think. Would you include that lighter red when all my other reds are darker? Like I said, I have a lot of darker reds, and I worry that that will be too light. Same thing with that blue is pretty light up against those others. Stick. And I overthink. You know, it's a scrappy quilt, Andy. You don't have to worry about it quite that much. People will understand that reds, whites, and blues come in a lot of different shades. Well, white, maybe not as much. I tend to find pretty standard white fabric. And so adding to my stack of 9 patches. So tell me, does your quilting behavior change with the seasons? Like, do you have Easter spring projects going on, and are those different than your winter quilts? I mean, I imagine if you're in a cold area, like you might sew with flannel in the winter and then switch back to cottons for the summer. Hello, Mona. Thanks for coming in. Yes, if I decided to say to not use this lighter red or maybe this lighter blue, those could definitely go in another project. But maybe I just make one block that has some of those lighter shades all grouped together and it can stand out on its own. Or would you mix them in? Decisions. And I get to use my cool pressing wedge. When I don't want to use my iron, I can just do some finger pressing, and I'm going the wrong way to press to the darks. I was thinking about getting one of those little pressing wheels, the seam roller, but I saw this little tool and it's such a pretty shade of blue. I can't really, that I decided to use the wedge. Anyone else? Barry is making a list of these tools. Yes. That pressing wedge has come in handy just because I do a lot of finger pressing. So having that tool just gives me a little bit of extra security when I don't want to have the iron out. Oh, Tori, that's a good point. She's my color expert. Well, I mean, I'm pretty good at colors. I did write a whole book called Monochromatic Quilts, so I know how colors play together. She says warm colors pop, and so yeah, the blues will all kind of blend into that cool family, but that red will stand out more with a lot of contrast. It's so funny when you start analyzing your stash and you're looking for a specific family and you're like, I have this whole bin of blue and red fabric, and then I'm going to pull these and I'm rejecting more pieces than I'm using. Oh my goodness. And then this fun paisley is just a little bit on the teal side. So I put it next to this navy dark blue and it looks a little off. But hopefully when things are spread out with the white, then they'll look okay. See this, I bet this pressing wedge is going to work a little bit better on the hard surface of the table instead of on top of the wool pressing mat. Yes. So I've got a fun new design for a Quilt of Valor, and I'm putting my 9 patches together with my snowballs. So I haven't trimmed this block yet. You can see I need one more corner, but that's why we're doing patriotic, is because it's going to be 9 patch snowballs. I have 2 sew days coming up. I have a Friday night group and a Saturday group this weekend. One of the few times that the 2 are back to back. And it's at the same quilt shop, so I can just leave my machine overnight. So that'll be fun. I missed out in February because of QuiltCon. Not that, I mean, QuiltCon was its own kind of fun, but I missed my local sewing group. And then in April, I'm going to a 3-day retreat, so I should be able to make lots and lots of progress. Hello, Jess. Thanks for stopping in. I have a very simple project going on here with these patriotic 9 patches. The only thinking I have to do for these is to make sure the reds end up in the opposite corners. I said I was making snowballs as the alternate blocks, so that means that I'm left with some triangles, bonus triangles that I just sew together to make little hourglass units with my scraps. And one of these days I'm going to have to do something with hourglass scraps. And every so often I get into a mood and I'm like, I don't need to save these small pieces of fabric, and I throw a bunch away. And then a week later, I'm back to using them as leader enders. So okay, 2 more 9 patches, and I think that will wrap things up for tonight. So Barry was asking about hourglasses. The way I make hourglass blocks is I take my 2 triangles and I sew them on the short side. Usually for half square triangles, you sew them on the long side, but I just sew down the short side, and then I can take those 2 pairs and match them up. The problem with that, like that, is that now this is a bias edge because this was the diagonal cut, and that bias is going to stretch a little more than the straight edge that I sewed. As long as you are careful when you press and handle those units, it shouldn't distort too much, but that is a danger with hourglass blocks. Depending on how you make the quarter square triangles, you could end up with bias that is going to stretch quite a bit. So, okay, well, my family will expect dinner here shortly, so I'm going to wrap things up. Thank you so much for joining the fun on WIP Wednesday, where we just sew and chat, and I will be back next week. Have a good quilty weekend, my friends. Enjoy.